Actually, our Guru Maharaj he used a nice analogy for when, you know, talking about what this world is. We have the tendency to, because we're eternal, we have the tendency to want to focus on something eternal. So we try to get comfortably here eternally. We try to get comfortable, I'm going to establish a place for my kids. I'm going to establish a place for my wife, my life, everything, that's long-lasting, eternal. We think that. We never really realize that, no, this is impossible here. And my, Prabhupada, he compares the material world a little less elegantly to the bathroom. The bathroom is just a place you go and you do your business and then you get on, you carry on. But my Guru Maharaj, he gives the analogy, this world's like a bridge, and a bridge is for passing, to cross over, something. But it's not for setting up shop on the bridge. No one sets up their home on a bridge. So this is, ultimately what we'll be forced, we have to cross. We have to cross the plane of birth and death. And so where are we actually establishing? What are we actually building up? Are we building up a financial empire? Are we building up a humanitarian community? Are we building up anything of this material world? Or are we building assets, what we talked about last time, spiritual assets, for the future? I know Keshava Gopal and myself, we have a tendency for some business in our, just by nature, we have the ability to do some business. So part of business is acquiring assets and making sure you invest in assets that are going to be long-lasting. But ultimately, what's the real, only genuine asset is the spiritual asset. So that which will transcend beyond this death and birth. I'm getting into monitoring markets a little bit. Okay, the market has gone down, good time to buy. Market has gone up, good time to sell or just hold put, something like this. But ultimately, in our youth, right, it's like the market is, going up, everything seems good. But at some point, the market will go down. Aging happens and everything's going to go down in your life. So ultimately we have to understand the temporary, the dualistic nature of this world. That which comes also goes. And so the real thing we have to focus on is spiritual assets. So that was the subject matter of last class. It's been some time, maybe a week, I don't know the last time I gave a Bhagavatam class, but maybe the last two verses in English I'll read, and then we'll do today's verse. Because of the Lord's pastimes and activities, and because of his absence. This is 1:15:30. It's on the screen too if you want to read. But because of the Lord's pastimes and activities, and because of his absence, it appeared that Arjuna forgot the instructions left by the personality of Godhead. But factually, this was not the case, and again, he became Lord of his senses. So in trials, in troubles, ultimately, what can be relied upon, and that's the Lord and his teachings, his instructions. Gandhi actually very famously quoted, whenever he finds himself in trouble in life, he turns to the Gita to get a great source of relief and peace, and and it helps him get through anything. So Arjuna, the same thing. Krishna had left, and it was causing him all kinds of problems. Also, all the yadus left too, and it was such a bloody mess how it happened. And next thing you know, all he could rely on was the Lord's instructions when he was here. And we talked about, Vani and Vapu instructions, even from Gurudev, from our spiritual teachers. It might be great. We can travel around serving Guru, his body personally. But maybe we can't, or maybe he doesn't have that service available for very many people. So, but everyone has the ability to follow his instructions. So Arjuna is remembering his instructions, and because of his possessing spiritual assets, the doubts of duality were completely cut off. Thus he was freed from the three modes of material nature and placed in transcendence. There was no longer any chance of his becoming entangled in birth and death, for he was freed from material form. This, was a heavy one. We had a lot of purports in these. But ultimately Arjuna had built up sambandha jnana, or a relationship with the Lord. And in that relationship over time, he as well, it had built to such a point now that when that relationship appeared to be fractured for just a short amount of time, appeared Krishna left, he was put into what seemed like an illusion. But ultimately, when he remembered the relationship, he remembered the Lord's instructions, then immediately, those were his spiritual assets, because he had that. Like even in our life, it happens all the time, we're doing something in our service, and then all of a sudden, something goes off, something goes way off according to our plan. And the next thing we know, what do we rely on? Okay, Krishna, what are you doing now? We've built a certain amount of spiritual assets from years of practice that okay, now I'm going to rely on the Lord. And our surrender will take us deeper, and it'll give us new tools on how to handle every problem. So for Arjuna, actually, this great calamity was the very thing that completely cut off his doubts of duality and freed him completely from the modes of nature and placed him in transcendence. And then he no longer there was no longer any chance of his becoming entangled in birth and death. And he was freed from material form. This is talking a bit about the liberated stage, and to become actually a siddha, a completely perfected being. This is like the topmost achievement of the soul, is to be completely free from the material entanglement, and then ultimately approaching the Lord in pure transcendence. And that's in devotional service, and that could be a progression as well. He's in part dasya and part sakya, meaning part servant and part friend. These are his moods towards the Lord. I don't know if that's his eternal destination, or maybe there could even be evolution in his service, but now he's no longer, it's no longer necessary for him to come. They say actually that it never was necessary for Arjuna to come. He's eternally, wherever Krishna goes in the material world, he's eternally following Krishna and serving Krishna in the pastimes. When Krishna gets in all of the crazy dramas of the material world, upending the politics and destroying the miscreants and saving the devotees in all kinds of places. So Arjuna's apparently always there to help, but I don't know anything factually. So before we read, we'll do our verses. The chief verse. This is a very nice verse. Maybe we can just say it. Jnana is ignorance, Om is the transcendental sound, and Timira is like the darkness, and Andasya, whereas Timira, one is blinded by darkness, and then Chakshuru Nilitangena, Amajnana Timirandasya, Jnananjana Shalake. It's actually he's giving the ointment of knowledge. We've always heard it like the torchlight of knowledge, but if you look at the what does Anjana mean? Anjana is like an ointment, and it's an analogy given to a person who has cataracts, and then Shalaka is like a tool that you remove the cataract, the blinding portion of the eye when a cataract forms. So who's doing Chakshurun Militamina? He's opened my darkened eyes. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. It's Shri Guru. He's opening. So these are all the prayers to the Gurus. Shri Chaitanya Mano
bhutale Sayam rupa gramayam gadati svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raguna Kamitam Tam Sujivam Savayavitam Savayavitam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Param Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitangscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhani Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatiyubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Shatane Shatarine.
So, before attempting to speak something on the Bhagavatam, I offer my obeisances hundreds of times to the gurus in my life. Diksha Guru, first and foremost, and then also now many Shiksha Gurus are coming to also help me along the path. So this is our great fortune, and then also we take the Shiksha from the great personalities of the Bhagavatam, and then the great personality Srila Prabhupada, who's giving his great purports, which make this very easy to understand for a less intelligent person like myself. When I started reading all these things, I had no way to understand any of these things other than, these must be some fairy tales from the eastern side of the earth. But actually, there's so much mercy has been given to Srila Prabhupada, his books, his purports. So it's really our great fortune that we get to read these. So, text 33. Text 32. Nishamya Bhagavan Margang Sangstang Yadu Kulasya Cha Svapataya Mating Chakre Nibritatma Yudhishthira. Nishamya, deliberating. Bhagavat, regarding the Lord. Margam, the ways of his appearance and disappearance. Sangshtam, and Yadu Kulasya, the dynasty of King Yadu. Cha, also. Sva, the abode of the Lord. Pataya, on the way. On the way up. It's almost like path. Matim, desire. Chakre, gave attention. Nibrita Atma, lonely and alone. Yudhishthir, King Yudhishthir. Upon hearing of Lord Krishna's returning to his abode, and upon understanding the end of the Yadu dynasty's earthly manifestation, Maharaj Yudhishthir decided to go back home, back to Godhead. So remember, Maharaj Yudhishthir was asking Arjuna all these questions, and then Arjuna, he was telling him what had happened, and by hearing this, Arjuna himself realized what needed to be done, and then Yudhishthir also. They both realized what needed to be done. So purport. Maharaj Yudhishthir also turned his attention to the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita after hearing about the Lord's departure from the vision of earthly people. He began to deliberate on the Lord's way of appearance and departure. The mission of the Lord's appearance and disappearance in the mortal universe is completely dependent on his supreme will. He is not forced to appear or disappear by any superior energy, as the living beings appear and disappear, being forced by the laws of nature. Whenever the Lord likes, he can appear himself from anywhere and everywhere without disturbing his appearance and disappearance in any other place. He is like the sun. The sun appears and disappears on its own accord at any place without disturbing its presence in other places. The sun appears in the morning in India without disappearing from the Western Hemisphere. The sun is present everywhere and anywhere, all over the solar system. But it so appears that in a particular place, the sun appears in the morning and also disappears at some fixed time in the evening. The time limitation even of the sun is of no concern, and so what to speak of the Supreme Lord, who is the creator and controller of the sun? So actually in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's described actually about Krishna, how he appears, and it's compared to like the sun, how the sun is rising. Now it's risen here in Syracuse, but it didn't yet rise, in California. So soon the sun will arise in California, very shortly, and so on. So the Lord, he appears in this world, he performs pastimes, and he's also then will continue appearing in other worlds, in other places, and he'll just keep moving across all of existence, and every living entity gets a chance to associate with the Lord. And they'll either continue looking away from him, or some very fortunate ones will look towards him and be very deeply benefited. So it's in our best interest, obviously, to be those entities who are deeply benefited by the Lord when he does appear. So it says, the sun is present everywhere and anywhere all over the solar system, but it so appears that in a particular place the sun appears in the morning and also disappears at some fixed time in the evening. The time limitation even of the sun is of no concern, and so what to speak of the Supreme Lord, who is the creator and controller of the sun? Therefore in the Bhagavad Gita it is stated that anyone who factually understands the transcendental appearance and disappearance of the Lord by his inconceivable energy becomes liberated from the laws of birth and death and is placed in the eternal spiritual sky where the Vaikuntha planets are. Right? Keshava Gopal, I think last time you gave morning class, you did this verse, Janma Karma Chime Divyam Evam Yoveti Tatvataha Taktva Deham Punar Janma Naiti Mameti Surjana. And basically that, anyone who knows the transcendental appearance and activities of the Lord, they're no longer subject to the laws of this body, and they no longer have to come back to this world upon. So, this is Sambandha Jnana, understanding the Lord's appearance, what he does, what is the relationship. If you have Sambandha Jnana, then you have a process of approaching him, and you don't have to come back here and suffer so badly like we have been. I'm just thinking, before Krishna consciousness, how badly were we all suffering? We were doing things, we had no idea why things happened. We just get bad results in life, and we're just, oh my God, again? What happened? But what's that?
Why me?
Yeah, why did this happen? I cannot understand how this has happened. But when you have some understanding of, the Lord, what's going on here, why he comes, the laws of karma, all of the subject matters of the Bhagavad Gita, then you're just like, oh, all right, yeah, it makes sense. Even say some sickness is coming. Some sickness is coming. We can evaluate, all right, why is the Lord doing this? Before it's, oh man, I just got unlucky. I used to think I was so unlucky. I didn't just realize, I was like, oh, actually I'm sinful. I'm just so unlucky, everyone else is so lucky. No, I'm acting more sinful than others. And so I'm unlucky, and then someone else gets to appear more fortunate than myself. But when you have understanding of the Lord, his appearance, his activities, his instructions, his laws, what's going on here, none of this confusion is here, and you always know what to do in any given circumstance. So the Lord, Yudhishthira and Arjuna, things materially got very tough, and they're like, oh yeah, why are we getting all involved in this material world? Let's go back. Krishna left. No longer time to be here. For the devotee, if Krishna's there in that place, yes, we should be here. When Keshava, Gopal, and Karuna, when they came and visited us in North Carolina, and they first pitched the idea of Syracuse to us. And we were like, Syracuse? It is so cold there. We're in blissful farm life in North Carolina. It's so, nice here. even though we didn't foresee the problems that were brewing there, that we weren't going to be able to stay there. But we were just so caught up in the beautiful surroundings. But why would we go over to Syracuse? It's cold and this, that, and the other. But why did we end up staying? There's not really any great material reason to stay in Syracuse. It's not a very wonderful place. The winters, it's gray for 5 months straight. No sun sometimes. I know in the winter the sun comes out. If it comes out in a little portion of the road, you literally will run and go stand in the portion of the sun. You haven't seen it in so long. But actually, what brings here? What is attractive here for the devotees? Is their service. There's people here who are approaching Krishna. Krishna is here. Actually, the deities have appeared here. They're being served here. They're being worshipped here. So there's a reason to be here. But when, let's say the deities disappeared, for some crazy thing happened, and the deities here, the Krishna consciousness movement here, left, then everyone should leave. We should all leave. No reason to be here, if that were to happen. So similarly, Arjuna and Yudhishthir, bewildered by the leaving of Krishna and now many of the devotees, Yadu dynasty, they've all left. Then they said, oh, it's time to go. No longer time to be here. So this is the vision of the devotee. So it says, therefore in the Bhagavad Gita it is stated that anyone who factually understands the transcendental appearance and disappearance of the Lord by his inconceivable energy, becomes liberated from the laws of birth and death and is placed in the eternal spiritual sky where the Vaikuntha planets are. There such liberated persons can eternally live without the pangs of birth, death, old age, and disease. In the spiritual sky, the Lord and those who are eternally engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord are all eternally young, because there is no old age and disease, and there is no death. Because there is no death, there is no birth. It is concluded, therefore, that simply by understanding the Lord's appearance and disappearance in truth, one can attain the perfectional stage of eternal life. Therefore Maharaj Yudhishthira also began to consider going back to Godhead. The Lord appears on the earth or any other mortal planet along with his associates, who live with him eternally, and the members of the Yadu family, who are engaged in supplementing the pastimes of the Lord, are no other than his eternal associates. And so also Maharaj Yudhishthira and his brothers and mother, etc. Since the appearance and disappearance of the Lord and his eternal associates are transcendental, one should not be bewildered by the external features of appearance and disappearance. So, ultimately, how is this going to be relevant for us? We have to understand, sometimes we get implicated. Oh, I got a new house here. I've got this going on. I've got a new job, new relationship, this, that, and the other thing. But ultimately, if your vision isn't on, if it's not ultimately on the end destination, these things will come and go, and you'll be bewildered by them if you're completely attached and absorbed in them. But if you're always absorbed in the Lord, when things happen, you can very easily, like Yudhishthira and Arjuna, make the transition. Oh, now let me go and dovetail everything I have towards the Lord. And at some point we're going to get old, and we'll transition. Maybe it'll be to children, maybe it'll be to the younger generation of devotees. But we'll have to transition our acquired assets in this world. We'll have to be, all right, you take care of this now. Like even now, we're doing with Mantra Central, 3 years we've been serving like this in so many ways, and still want to serve in many ways. But, we're seeing others coming up. And so, also, take charge of some of the things. And then, we're seeing great ways to expand our service. In India, in other places, we had a beautiful festival down in Bhakta Bandhav, wonderful connections with so many devotees down there. So there's so many ways to expand our service. But at some point, this body, this sadhaka deha or form in serving Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission won't be very good anymore. It's not like, when you're young, you have charisma and you have, some freshly earthly beauty and things like that. People will listen to you and reciprocate with you and things like that. But at some point, the body will get old and useless, or even your consciousness, you'll develop such a distaste for the material world. This happens to so many great spiritual masters, like Bhakti Siddhanta. He left, and Prabhupada has said, he didn't have to leave. He was just so disgusted with the affairs of the material world and also the devotees. The devotees he considered who were neophyte, in comparison, and all of their caring about honor and prestige and buildings and things like this. Even Srila Prabhupada, controversial as it is, so many of his disciples also were caring about so many foolish things, and even there's hearsay that some might have even tried to do harmful things towards him upon leaving. But a pure devotee doesn't have to leave. A pure devotee, they may want to leave. They may see the state of the affairs. Even Gaura Govinda Maharaj, same thing. He was in Mayapur, and what was happening in Mayapur, he was just due to the engagements of what was happening in the political sphere of the institution. He was getting, they were preparing to kick him out. They were discussing whether to kick him out of ISKCON, actually. And he left, out of his will, being like, just because, when a devotee has reached a stage of purity, but the rest of the world, there's no way they can catch up. Eventually, you see what service can be done, and you say, oh, time to go to the next service, And so they get to serve in an extraordinary way. I can't even fathom the type of service Srila Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati are doing. Many say they're Nitya Siddha. They've always been serving that way. So even if they came here as a service, imagine you're serving Radha and Krishna in the Nikunjas in Vrindavan in such bliss and ecstasy, and then you come to this world, and this world has all its, crazy trouble and nonsense and this, that, and the other thing. Imagine the comparison. So they want to leave in due time. So, and then they do. So we're seeing now all the devotees are leaving. Krishna's left, pastimes are over. I'm out. No longer here. We are in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes still, actually. So we can serve in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. But at some point, we'll be called to move forward. No problem. Abhiram. Let's read one more verse. Prithapyanushrutya dhananjayoditang Nashang yadunang bhagavad gating chatam Ekanta bhaktya bhagavat yadhokshaje Niveshitatmo pararama sangshrite Pritha Kunti Api also Anushrutya overhearing Dhananjaya Arjuna Uditam uttered by Nasham and Yadunam of the Yadu dynasty Bhagavat of the personality of Godhead Gatim disappearance Cha also Tam all those Ekanta unalloyed Bhaktya devotion Bhagavati unto the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna Adhokshaje transcendence Niveshita Atma with full attention Upararama became released from Sangshrite material existence. Kunti, after overhearing Arjuna's telling of the end of the Yadu dynasty and disappearance of Lord Krishna, engaged in the devotional service of the transcendental personality of Godhead with full attention and thus gained release from the course of material existence. Purport. The setting of the sun does not mean the end of the sun. It means that the sun is out of our sight. Was that from the butt coming or from the mouth? Oh. It means that the sun is out of our sight. Similarly, the end of the mission of the Lord on a particular planet or universe only means that he is out of our sight. The end of the Yadu dynasty also does not mean that it is annihilated. It disappears along with the Lord out of our sight. As Maharaj Yudhishthira decided to prepare to go back to Godhead, so also Kunti decided, and thus she fully engaged herself in the transcendental devotional service of the Lord, which guarantees one a passport for going back to Godhead after quitting this present material body. The beginning of devotional service to the Lord is the beginning of spiritualizing the present body, and thus an unalloyed devotee of the Lord loses all material contact in the present body. The abode of the Lord is not a myth, as is thought by the unbelievers or ignorant people, but one cannot reach there by any material means like a Sputnik or a space capsule. He wrote this when they were putting Sputnik into the atmosphere. But one can certainly reach there after leaving this present body, and one must prepare himself to go back to Godhead by practicing devotional service. That guarantees a passport for going back to Godhead, and Kunti adopted it. So I like how Prabhupada calls it a passport. Just like you have to go to another country, you have to get a passport, and you have to get like this. So this is the process of devotion. There's a process to do it. This is the process of sadhana bhakti. We're doing so many sadhanas, and in our sadhana, we're actually starting to cultivate some internal mood. So we're starting to cultivate. I can actually probably pacify him if you hand me him. So,
I think he might be what?
yeah. So, he also, yes. No problem. So this is what we're doing. We're practicing sadhana bhakti. We're like applying for a passport. And okay, passport here. Where do you want to go? What is the sadhya of your bhakti? Some people are devotees of Nrsingadev. Some people are devotees of Lakshmi Narayan. Some people are devotees of Lord Shiva, and so on. And they want to attain that. The Shastras, and then also our lineage of Acharyas and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all are saying that what is our goal? Goloka Vrindavan. What type of service is topmost? Yes, the dealings of Krishna and his gopis, but there's so many ways one could be attracted to, and they're all different flavors of perfection. But anyhow, our lineage here is almost exclusively giving this type of mood. Yes. So please engage me in the service of Shri. Yes, granting a residence in Sri Vrindavan, serving as like a maid servant in the groves of Vrindavan. So anyway, I won't go any further than that. But that's ultimately what we're doing. And we're getting a passport right now. It's not guaranteed that yes, once we leave this body, based on our service, we'll go right back to that spiritual abode and be situated in perfection. There's actually, like for instance, you'll see in the Ras dance when we get to it 3 or 4 years from now, by the time we get through Bhagavatam, you'll see in the Ras dance that there are certain gopis, they had to get little, even Maharaj was talking yesterday in his class, we heard, that he had, that the gopis had to have a little bit of tinge of pride removed still. So in order to do that, they had to be born in families where Krishna was going to appear in that world. And then Krishna did so many pastimes. And then by association with Krishna, this last little tinge of material association will be completely destroyed. And then they're eligible to go with Krishna in eternity in Goloka. So this actually is what will happen to us, our Acharya state. That we reach a certain level of perfection, and then what happens? We've gotten the passport to go where? Passport is to go where Krishna is appearing. Back to Godhead, actually. Where Krishna is appearing, this is Godhead. It might not be a lot of times we sometimes think, yes, we're going right back to the spiritual world and things like that. But actually, we'll, at least from our Acharyas, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and others, saying, we'll go somewhere in the material world where the Lord is appearing. And when the Lord is appearing there, then by association with the Lord, any last little tinge of material contamination will be completely overcome. And then by that association in his pastimes, then you'll be ready in the next birth. So anyhow, but that's what we're actually aiming for. We're aiming for the Lord, we're aiming for his affection, and that's what we're going towards. We should put ourselves in situations, what should guide us where we go next, we should feel inspired in service, Money shouldn't necessarily be the next destination. Oh, I've got good money coming over here. If I transplant to Houston, I have good money. Now, if that's a good way to maintain your life and you have good service available in Houston, great, go there. But actually, this shouldn't be dictating where our service is. Our service should be dictated is where are we advancing in service? Where are we going that we can advance in service? So this is, right now you guys are here in Syracuse, and maybe many years of service to come. Parth, you have some program for maybe 3 more years. You'll be here, right? 3?
2, 3 depends.
Yeah, 2 or 3. Let's see. But whatever it is, Krishna will arrange. And then Madhav, also you're kind of coming up here now, serving a year. But there may come a time where you'll be called to serve elsewhere. There may come a time where you'll be called to serve elsewhere in some portion and come back serve, and so on. But we should go where there is service, and our depth of service is increasing, and our spiritual guidance. We should really go. Vaikayanus Maharaj in his class in the morning, he said something very nice, that real perfection of spiritual life is nishtha to Guru. What does Guru want from me? I'll go there. I don't want to concoct my own ideas of, all right, this is how I want to serve. I want to serve like this. I want to serve like this. How does my most respected spiritual teacher, how does he see? And I serve like this. So this is what we ultimately have to do. We have to find proper guidance, serve from the heart under their guidance, and whatever they think is perfect, we trust that. We trust they're more deeply connected to Krishna than I am. So whatever they think is perfect for me. And then I'll do just like that. So, Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. All right.